How about a personal tour of our Diagon Alley Details? I wanted to show you some of the secrets that I've hidden inside these windows. So I need to show you some details in the leaky cauldron. This cauldron is actually a solid cast iron antique. I got it at a Gothic antique store in Placerville, and I was so happy to have it, but boy is it heavy. But it is the pride of my cauldron collection. I'm glad we can have it on display in the leaky cauldron. This new set of coals we just made at an Orcal Haunters Make and Take. But if you look, you'll actually spy a bunch of Hermione G. Wells travel photos in here, because why not? I still had them. There she was in Rottenburg on Tauberon, Germany, I think, and this is in Norway. We, of course, have collected some butterbeer mugs from the Universal Parks. Those are our wooden mugs from Dickens Fair purchasers. A couple more fun things from Orlando, plus I included this because everyone talked about what a great job I did on my signs, but this is some of my original signage back when I was 9 going on 10 for my dad's blackberry wine. My mom and dad brewed some wine and I made the labels. So you see, everyone starts somewhere. So some other fun artwork in here. That owl I drew actually long before Harry Potter. That was inspired by Twin Peaks. The owls are not what they seem. This blue lady I painted as part of Halloween decor. See, her eyes follow you just because they're cut out and receded behind you. A fun, happy Halloween. Purchased art. I made the butterbeer barrel from a planter, a plastic planter, and a real tap. And of course the lenticular Sirius from way back, Prisoner of Azkaban movie. And we have a few more lenticulars around that I have. More Hermione G. Wells. There she is up in Ben Nevis, I think. There she is as a member of the Ghost Club of London. There she is hot air ballooning in Australia. Another fun lenticular. All sorts of lenticulars. So they change as you walked through the corner here. And then the most fun lenticulars that Kevin was having fun pointing out to everyone are the ones of us. He could point out that these were your hosts this evening. Sure wished Orlando Disneyland still did that. And one last bit of trivia here. There actually are 3 broomsticks hanging inside our leaky cauldron. Yes, that was meant to be a joke, because 3 broomsticks is the Pup and Hogsmeade. Ha ha ha. So, and Kevin, our bartender, thought up all the menu items here. Notice that only one of them is actually currently on tap. One more bit about the bar. Those griffins were my fireplace mantle that I built at my other house, and so I decided to keep them. I'm very glad I did. The counter was actually our kitchen pantry was an office, so we took that counter out of that when we remodeled, and this beadboard was left over from our kitchen remodel, and I painted all to look like wood instead of primed white and speckled granite for mica look. And there's the leaky cauldron. We did buy that sign, but I painted this one. Ollivanders, makers of fine wands. This one was fun. We didn't have any functional spells in here on purpose because you were just getting your wand. But what I did do when we were on our New Year's trip to Orlando is I took good photos of all the wands inside the windows of the Ollivanders shops. So I was able to print those out, and those were our backdrops. Really fun. And we have a couple wands, so we have the boxes and the bags that we got when we bought our wands. Of course, they went on display. This display is a clock from a thrift store that I just drilled holes. So these were all examples of the wands we made, which were chopsticks and mug pegs as handles. And so those were your variety that you can actually get. However, in the other window, some of the ones we made, and then there's one from the splintered wand I got in June. The other fancy blonde handle is the first wand I made 20 years ago for my Fleur Delacour costume. Another one we bought as part of a costume, and another example I attempted to make. So, and that's, I think, oh, actually, the one I got from Simone, the little short one, that's from my friend in Brazil who sent it to me after I helped her with her daughter's Harry Potter party way long time ago. She's a great friend now. This, I think, is a floral frog, but it sure works as a wand holder. This dragon doorbell I actually had as a doorbell at my old house. And this was our one functional door that actually can lock. We cut it into a Dutch door, so then Madame Ollivander had her counter she could stand at and hand out wands. And I made the signs, of course. That one is just painted wood, and that is carved foam. So for honeydukes, one of my many collection of door knockers, people had fun with this guy. And these porch posts were actually reclaimed from the built-in bed that was in our master bedroom here in our vintage Victorian home. So it was fun to use those again. The cotton candy is, of course, the cotton batting, well, polyester batting. But there's a lot of items in here that were purchased over the years. The ice mice actually are way, way back in the day. You can even see the box is kind of ratty because I've kept it. I never saw them again. Of course, the bonbons, peppermint toads, cauldron cake, those are actually sold in Orlando. So we bought a bunch of those and brought them back. And along with the ribbon, the Honeydukes ribbon was really great. But all the Birdie Box Every Flavor Bean boxes are my design that I made from DVD screen capture of the very first movie, way, way, way back in the day. So I was able to make them giant, and that became our Colovaria color change charm clue. So that was fun. And the cauldron, who knows where I got that? I can't even remember. It's been in my cauldron collection forever. Oh, the chocolate frog window. Now, this box, I wanted to make this box ever since I saw the first movie, but it took me 2 years of trial and error construction to figure out how to make the pentagonal box with the little lip, how it nested the box over the lip edge. So that was tricky, and it's still a tricky pattern. My friends wouldn't even do it. I had to do all these myself. And of course, by having your own pattern, you can print a giant one, which is fun. So just in case anyone called me on it, yes, I do know that Honeydukes is in Hogsmeade. However, I decided they had opened a new branch in Diagon Alley, which is also why it's fancier than the one you see in Orlando. So if you see, the chocolate frogs have escaped their boxes, many of them, and they're trying to jump on the windows, inspired by the scene on the train, of course. And we wanted one giant chocolate frog, like you have the giant chocolate bunny for Easter. The extra bit in this is Glenn rigged it up so you can actually smell chocolate with a diffuser pipe in here. And we have cotton candy smell in the other window as well. So there's Honeydukes for you. Our Quidditch shop was the one I did not have much in my collection. I did have the Golden Snitch, the officially licensed plastic version from many years ago, but I made the quaffle from paper mache, and I found 2 bludger balls out of paper mache and altered them with some chains and everything. And the snitch only could close at a certain point in the trunk lid for the quaffle, so I painted an extra fancy design. Anyway, the beater bats I made this year from some cheap dollar store baseball bats, and we saved up our Amazon points for Quidditch gear like the goggles and the shin guards, etc., another set of goggles. We actually redeemed points for the jersey, but I added the Alohomora letters myself because that was our clue for the spell, and also helped hide the mechanism of how the trunk lid moved and how it was attached to the servo. I made the Chudley Cannons pennant from some scrap felt and a Sharpie. The broom wax are printed labels from a close-up a photo I took in Orlando on some vitamin jars that I had saved. And Denise and Sid helped me cut out all these colorful pennants from my mom's teacher paper stash, and then Sid helped me string them on some yarn and hang them, and that's our festive Quidditch shop. Quality Quidditch supplies. People kept asking me, where do you put all this stuff? I said, well, when you've been collecting it for like over 20 years, you just keep it. Hi, Mousebane, how you doing? So those 2 guys, that guy, both ones that move are actually solar owls that move, that are meant to, keep pests from your yard. So those guys work great. But these other guys are all, well, there's 2 of them that were new purchased from flea market this year. But this little guy, Grim Feather, he's made me laugh for over 20 years. He just cracks me up, his attitude. And here, Bug Eye. He's not the best looking, realistic looking owl, but he definitely looks like a bug eye. Then we have, you know, Swish and Flick, of course. This one was actually one of the brown painted owls, and I actually painted her white to be Caladria for the Verdigris saga for Queen Sova's portrait. But this guy, the Tommy Frogmouth, he came from the flea market this year. And this one I think was actually a Hedwig toy that someone sold along the way, who lost her beak, but she's now Silvertip. So that's our owl window. We couldn't resist the owl door knocker too. And, you know, I did have a whole bunch of these owl lanterns for my wedding, so couldn't resist putting one of those there too. So, Madame Malkin's, of course. Glenn kept saying, is this your favorite shop? I said, well, for design, I think, but you know, I love the scissors, I love the archway. So there's a lot of fun stuff in here. So that green dress I got way back when at a discount store, but I loved it with the beads and the flounces. I wore it for Mardi Gras a couple times. It actually happens to go quite well with this iridescent feather hat, which I never actually wore it with, but it looks great on display. But this is actually an Anglican priest's winter cloak, vintage. You can actually see in the label, Friar A.T. somebody or other. I just got this year. It is super heavy, thick, solid wool, so we hung it in the display instead of anyone trying to wear it. So before the movie Mirror of Erised came out, there was actually a Mirror of Erised sold by the Warner Brothers store, and someone gave it to me. So we have the original Mirror of Erised in here. We have some jewelry from both of my grandmothers on display as vintage stuff, but the lipstick holder actually came from our trip to China. Hat boxes from my copious collection. This is actually my hat from the Victorian Webmistress of the Dark outfit that I made and ended up as part of the Verdigris saga. So that's just the display window. Now onto the spell window. Of course, it's even more. Now we actually bought this robe because we wanted one that didn't actually have any colors on it for house colors, so we could actually change the crest easily without identifying it to one house. It came almost see-through enough to project through, but not quite. So I actually had to reverse applique a piece of shearer scrim so it could go over our screen for our little mini projector. But to hide the other side, we put some scarves from my collection, some spiderweb fun, and even the Beware the Brocade original Eerie Elegance design back from 2008. These are spools of thread I inherited from my grandmothers, so all the wooden ones are inherited ones, and some fun trims, of course, 2 vintage measuring tapes, and a fun mirror. Of course, this measuring tape, I added a label, which was our clue, change crest with multi-corphors. And I had to add a joke. This was Glenn's joke, actually. Halloween special, free house elf sock with every purchase with some fun Halloween socks. Some badges. That's the sweater it was a thrift store sweater. I actually made all that ribbon trim in the scarlet and gold so I could add it to my sweater for my Hogwarts student outfit. So I had leftover trim, put the sweater in here, but it's actually the costume tie that came with one of the ones we bought. So a big scrap of lace that looks cool. And of course, crushed velvet backdrop. There's your tour of Madame Malkin's. So our apothecary shop, the name is already an Easter egg because I made Wells apothecary labels way back in, I think, 2009 when I had Hermione G. Wells as my steampunk character who had moved Castle Britahuta over to California. So that was my joke, and I had all these labels that I had already made, so that's fun. So, but there are also labels in here all the way back from my first Harry Potter parties where all I had was a little potion shelf inside my apartment, and everything was edible ingredients so we could create our own potions to drink. So a lot of these actually still have the same little sugar eyeballs and some rosemary and some fun stuff. We also have some new creations we made at NorCal Haunters this year. Some of these jellied bat creatures. And of course our self-stirring cauldrons, all sizes and colors. There's of course a couple purchased ones in here that are fun that I couldn't resist. And of course the biggest one, our clue, the Fire in a Bottle by Ex Incendio. Of course there are also real plants in here that I've saved from my garden, my mom's garden, and even some of our trips, our camping trips this summer. So, and even, so we have some magnolia pods, we have some sage, some rosemary, some other plants, and I have even more bottles than even would fit in here. So this was really fun to decorate. Of course, there's some fun trivia inside Flourish and Blots. You know, I made the Monster Book of Monsters, a rabbit fur vest from a flea market, some Palmer clay sculpting for the gums and the fangs, a little fabric tongue floating around, some cabochon eyes, and sculpted eyelids. So it was fun to make. So there's lots of books in here that I actually made over the years. There's 3 here, 2 really old ones. I actually went through all the Harry Potter books and listed out all the titles that were mentioned by name and made all the books. So you'll see, you know, 100,000 Magical Herbs and Fungi, Dark Forces. All these books are actually referenced in the Harry Potter novels. A couple of these were actually from the Verdigris Saga by Marizanine. Then we bought some fun ones at Orlando. And of course there's the Fantastic Beasts, both versions that I have. The Gilderoy Lockhart one I found way back when. Someone had mocked that up online, so I printed it out with a book cover. That was fun. Now this one, this manuscript, is all done by me by hand. All the calligraphy and all the painting is all me, and that was for our 2014 Verdigris Saga year. And that's the last of the bookcase wallpaper that I have that I used in my old library laboratory at my other house. Some more trivia, this time from Borgin & Burke's. Of course, we have the Serious Wanted poster. That was the poster I got when the movie The Prisoner of Azkaban was coming out. We just made this skeleton hand lantern at NorCal Haunters Make and Take this year. We have another spirit prop, the spirit board, which was fun to integrate in our setup here. A brass bell, I think that was from our trip to Korea. This cool wooden mask bowl set is from our trip to Fiji. And the Deadhead rum was just a fun shrunken head rum bottle that I had. He works in this window. We did get the monkey on eBay. He's an actual vintage toy. Some fun gargoyles I've had. Of course, the eyeball is yet another of the fun door knockers, and we rigged it to work on our spell. The animated bat was from Target. These 2 little curiosity jars we made actually at the Wild Wild West Tucson Steampunk Convention this year. The creepy baby doll is from Kathy Hendricks' collection. Thank you, Kathy. You are living on in our display. Now, in this window, we didn't have any spells, but we do have a real human spine. I have this because my great-grandparents were both chiropractors in North Dakota at the turn of the last century. They not only had this in their practice, but it was one of their final projects to assemble it properly. The tiny vertebrae are actually from, I can't remember if it was Christmas or Thanksgiving turkey, but Mom said, "Hey, you want me to save the bones?" I said, "Sure." The tarot cards Glenn got me for my birthday this year. We have my Viking drinking horn I got at the Viking Festival in Visby, Gotland when I visited, which is where my great-grandfather was from on my dad's side. I did make 4 Horcruxes for my Book 7 release party because we only knew what 4 Horcruxes were at the time, and we didn't know what they actually looked like from any movie prop department. So I made Tom Riddle's diary with the Basilisk's fang burned hole in it, the Hufflepuff cup, and the Slytherin locket, and the ring. And some other fun stuff in this window. Borgin and Burke's. Last but not least is Scribulus inks, quills, and parchment. We have the bottles with a whole bunch of feathers I've collected over time. There's a nice quill from the Pirate Festival, nice plume. We have a reproduction cast brass inkwell that I got for Glenn for his writer's desk in our turret. That peacock quill we bought on our honeymoon at Neuschwanstein Castle. More plumes, some fun actual wax seals, and some wax seals I made for the Verdigris saga at Castle Brita, and even some Hogwarts I cut out of foam to use as stamps for plates and goblets way back 20 years ago, and even some of the seals I made for the plastic wax seals I used for the invitations from Hogwarts that I made from a seal that I carved out of Sculpey, and even eagle quills I made with ballpoint pens for my first Harry Potter parties 20 years ago as well. Another verdigris seal up here, more fun feathers, and yes, this quill is the Spirit Moving Book from Spirit Halloween, but it's a fun one, we use it. So there's some Easter eggs for you, some fun trivia. Hope you enjoyed these Diagon Alley details.